is Henson Moore, who's the Deputy Secretary of the Department of Energy, representing Admiral Watkins, and Leo Duffy, a Special Assistant. You have in your hands a copy of an agreement that is not signed. I have here the original of that, which Henson Moore and I have both initialed. This agreement is a deal. It's done. It is not signed because we need to get it to Admiral Watkins, and there needs to be a technical legal review of it. We've discussed that. That legal review is to give lawyers in Admiral Watkins' office an opportunity to touch up any technical legal ways in which things are stated. But it's not to change the substance of this agreement. This agreement substantively has been done. Now, I'm going to take you through a portion of it. Henson Moore will take you through a portion of it. I met with Admiral Watkins and Henson Moore and other members of the Department of Energy on Monday noon for lunch. And we arrived at the essential structure of this agreement, and we've been taking that time from Monday till today to put specifics in place. It's a cooperative arrangement. Suggestions came from both sides. It's something that was worked out, and that team was in my office at 2:30 last night working on additional details. The reason for the timeliness of it is that it's important that we bring together in this community a solution to this problem that's both effective and it has credibility, and that's what we're after. Now, as you can tell, in the first 2 pages, there are general statements of that agreement. I want to get to the heart of the matter. My policy is that we need to make that plant both safe and clean, or else it cannot operate. And this agreement is aimed at understanding the respective roles. The Department of Energy is responsible for the operation of that plant. They have the responsibility to operate it safely and cleanly from environmental laws and to prove to us that that's being done. It's the responsibility of the Colorado state government to monitor that, to ensure that there is an independent verification of both safety and protecting the health of Colorado citizens. And as we go through here, it's very critical that you maintain that distinction between these two roles. The state of Colorado is not taking on the responsibility for that plant's operation. That's not our responsibility. It's the Department of Energy. I have no jurisdiction to do that. The state of Colorado cannot guarantee what happens to that plant. We can monitor it. We can monitor it so effectively that we can give assurances to people as to whether it's safe or not. Now, first, there are 4 key areas that this addresses: surface water, air emissions, underground aquifers and underground water flows, and the waste stream tract. The 5th area that is not in the agreement but we're going to talk about is criticality. Those are the 5 concerns of this community. First, drinking water. We're going to take a 4-fold approach to solving the problem of that water being safe. First, as you know, that water is now being tested by the municipalities, and many of the mayors are in this room. Those tests have historically been based on what clean water ought to be tested for. We now know there are certain exotic toxics that might come from this plant, and we have now begun to test for those toxics. Secondly, water will be tested in these 2 reservoirs, again, for drinking water standards and for those additional toxics. That's discussed in this document. Third, there are a series of ponds on South Walnut Creek. Now, those ponds periodically have discharges into Great Western Reservoir. We've provided for thorough testing before discharge, and they have to be safe waters before they're discharged. Now, in addition to monitoring that with additional equipment and personnel, and this is not in the agreement because it doesn't need to be there, but I am going to initiate immediately a change in status in these two creeks, Woman Creek and South Walnut Creek, so that they can be reclassified by the Water Quality Control Commission of the state of Colorado so that they will be of public drinking water standards. In other words, I have talked to the chairman of the Water Quality Control Commission, I've talked to him about an expeditious action, and I'm going to ask for reclassification of those two streams. They're not now classified as public drinking water sources. We're going to do that. And what that then will require will be a change of the criteria on the outlet of that sewage plant that's located on site. The EPA, as my understanding, is also going to apply similar changes. So we are going to have the water that comes out of that sewer plant before it hits the retention ponds of the standard that it will meet drinking water quality standards once it is chlorinated and filtered. Now, the fourth point is we are also going to monitor the input and the output of that sewage plant on site. Now, let me tell you, we began those tests already, and the tests show absolutely clean, drinkable water at the municipal level and at the level to the reservoirs, and there are none of those exotic toxics that were identified in those two sources. We also just, in the last 24 hours, completed the test for the water in these 4 retention ponds in South Walnut Creek, and there are none of those exotic toxics in that water. We also have tested the outfall from that sewer plant, and there are none of those exotic toxics there. However, we tested the waters going into the sewage plant, and out of those 15 exotic toxics, there are 2 that go into the plant is presently cleaning them. Now, the additional safety that we are going to have on the water, surface water, is that we will be given an inventory of the waste streams of that total plant operation that will be sufficiently complete that we can identify the kind of sewage that goes into that plant, and we'll be better able to measure. Now, that's a quick summary of the changes that will be made in monitoring surface water. Let's talk about underground aquifers. We are going to go back in and do a thorough re-examination of the whole system of monitoring the underground aquifers. We're going to have, the DOE has agreed to put in 50 additional wells before the end of this year. And there will be a complete review of the adequacy of that system. Let's go to air quality monitoring. As you will notice on the 4th page of this document, there are several. We will submit a comprehensive air emissions inventory for our review. This is a new element. We have not had that kind of an inventory before. The second bullet, the Department of Energy will provide a comprehensive materials balance of VOCs, volatile organic chemicals, for our review. That again is new. What that means when we talk about a materials balance is we're going to know what comes into that plant and what leaves that plant, and we will have access to all of that data so that we can make an evaluation. This is particularly critical when you get to incineration. You'll notice later on we're going to have access to a daily log of what goes into those incinerators. That will then give us the information that we'll be able to use to match with the stack monitoring. Next, on air emissions, the Department of Energy will identify all toxic and radioactive emissions coming from the facility, stacks, vents, ponds, and will support the Colorado Health Department in the use of an emissions model to predict any areas of off-site impact. That needs to be considered with the next 2 bullets, which provide for continuous stack monitoring, CEMs in the stacks, and until they're put in place, grab stack samples. What we're going to do is we're going to be now on site, which we were not before, monitoring what goes into the incinerators, looking at daily logs, having equipment that will give us a continual testing of what comes out of the stacks, and we will put in place a modeling system to show what the effect of those emissions would be upon population around that plant. Now, in addition, next to the last bullet, we're going to put in place also a comprehensive review of this system, so that together with the EPA and the local governments, we can look at the effectiveness of this air monitoring system and see whether or not, in addition to stack emissions and modeling, we need to have some off-site testing of air quality in addition to the radioactive testing that we now do. Let me summarize. This is a very comprehensive new approach to air quality monitoring, and the Department of Energy has agreed to give us access, to give us the information, and give us the funding to do the oversight. Now, Attachment B talks about cleanup of some existing sites. We have, as you know, certain pollution already on site that we need to clean up. And it doesn't now present a present danger to public health, but it could in the future. First, hillside 881. You all know that that is the hillside that was identified as the most dangerous in terms of public health of any in the nation. And it's because those solvents in that hillside are that close to Woman Creek. We have agreed that we will expedite that cleanup. It's an underground dam that will be built, and it will be initiated by September of this year, just a few months away. And we have an accelerated program of cleaning up hillside 881. And I think you should note in that last sentence of that paragraph, the Department of Energy should commit additional funds to assess and clean up the heavy metals and radioactive constituents that are present in the groundwater. So it's not just a statement to keep it from flowing into the stream, but it's to clean up what's there. Next, the mound in East Trench and the 903 pad. Again, I won't spend a lot of time on it, but there's an accelerated schedule of remediation on that site. Solar ponds. You remember in the affidavit, which was used to support the search warrant, that there was an allegation that these ponds are leaking. We're going to get those ponds empty. We're going to take the sludge out of them. We're going to expedite the emptying of these ponds of liquid and sludge and waste, and the removal of that from the plant site. Now, there are other detailed matters that I will skip over. Section C, Henson Moore will comment upon Section C. Let me turn to Section D, and that is the health studies. What we're after is the kind of in-place monitoring on surface water, underground water, air emissions, and the waste stream. But in addition, we want to put in place a very thorough study of the health effects of that plant. The Department of Energy has agreed to fund this. And this is a study of a total toxicological review since 1953, a dose reconstruction since 1953, and a quantitative risk assessment. So over a period of time, we can determine whether or not there has been an exposure to citizens in that area, and to what degree that exposure could have affected their health. We also need this kind of information to make future decisions about the level of exposure that is safe or not safe. And you will see that there is a series of steps that are taken, and I will not take the time right now to review them. Let me go back to page 2 of the document. One of the important aspects of this whole solution is not only to do the kind of independent testing from the Department of Energy, but to do it in a way which has credibility. So I am going to initiate, and this is at the top of page 2, an health advisory panel that can give me as governor advice from a broad range of individuals, including some in government and some outside the government, that will recommend to me the most effective methodology that can be used to accomplish what we're set out to do here, and that is to adequately monitor any emissions from that plant. Now, I want to turn to Henson Moore for further comment. But before I do, there are two other elements. One, the waste stream itself, and I think all of you have seen our compliance orders and know that issue fairly well. But the fifth issue is the matter of criticality. We absolutely need to have that answered, and answered by an independent source. And I have talked to the Department of Energy about that, and Henson Moore will comment on it. But the objective here is that we want to put in place adequate, independent, verifiable standards that can be monitored so that we can assure our citizens that that plant is safe, both in terms of public health and environmental damage. And we have not probably got all the steps in place here. And you'll notice that this document says, as we find further information, we will amend this document. Henson Moore.